Good morning, good day, good evening, my fellow gamers. Welcome to BattlefieldOne Podcast, the only gaming podcast you ever need about your favorite franchise, Battlefield. My name is Tom, also known as the Lanky Soldier, and today I'm all by myself, sadly, as my co-host Ray is not available, for certain stuff. Life takes priority, which I understand, so he's not available today, but that will not stop us from discussing some very spicy news topics that happened in the last couple of weeks. I mean, really spicy. And here's a small spoiler. I'm actually really worried. I'm not optimistic anymore, and I will explain why as we chug along this episode, and hopefully you can enjoy my discussion, my ramblings, and hopefully I will not go too passionate. Well, we'll see. But yeah, we'll see how it goes, because there's a lot to discuss, a lot to cover, so yeah, a lot of things to talk about. A bit of housekeeping, of course. First, as you all know, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know we do a bit of housekeeping at the start of each episode, so people know what this podcast is all about, and to make everyone's listening experience much better. So, we do have time codes, whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, or watching us on YouTube. Check the description, of where you listen to the podcast, or look directly at your screen. I think it's also on Spotify and YouTube. You can click on the topic you want to listen. So I understand, because you don't have a whole hour to listen to me rambling about Battlefield. I understand. So you want to listen to a specific particular topic, you can click on the time code that is in the description, or just look at your screen and it should come up. You can click on the topic and listen to it. So it's there to make your listening experience better. So hopefully that helps. And of course, we do have socials, Twitter, YouTube, Blue Sky, all in the description. Go give us a follow or subscribe to my YouTube channel at TheLankySoldier. You can just find Lanky Soldier everywhere. It's the same name everywhere, so it's not really hard to find me. I'm really easily searchable and findable. Find us, subscribe, follow us, makes it easier. And of course, we have the BattlefieldOne Podcast, Twitter, and Blue Sky, but it's just there to post when the new episode is out, And if you want to contact us directly and ask us questions, give feedback, whatever is on your mind, there's a link in the description to a Google Forms document, so you can write to us directly with no catch. So me and Ray were discussing that Google Forms document last episode, and we finally created one, and thank you everyone that wrote to us. No Google required or anything like that, so there were comments of people complaining that it's kind of hard to contact us, because not everyone has social media, not everyone wants to write an email and so on, so I get that. So we create a Google Forms document, so you don't need to have an account or anything. You just have to click on the link, write whatever's on your mind, write your questions, your feedback, your comments, and it goes directly to us, and you don't have to do anything else. It's that easy, it's that simple, and it's great. And it was really nice to read your first messages that we got from you, including one of them calling me fat. It literally made me cry from joy. I mean, it is better than therapy. I'm not fat, by the way, but I did grow a little belly while I was working at Sony PlayStation, office job and everything. I learned my lesson about diet, so I'm doing my best to lose that belly, but screw you. But it's funny how people try to insult me, but it's funny. But yeah, so if you have any feedback, any questions, anything that is on your mind that you want to tell us, Google document is in the description. Let us know. Just write to us, and it's there to make it easier. And most importantly, of course, we do have a Patreon. So I have to tell about it, because that's what keeps this show going. You don't have to subscribe, of course. Otherwise, you would not be listening to this show right now. But if you do enjoy this podcast and this show and everything we do, I fully recommend to subscribe to our Patreon, and I will explain why in a second, at patreon.com/TheLankySoldier. As usual, the link is to our Patreon is in the description, patreon.com/TheLankySoldier. So our Patreon has 3 tiers, Silver, Gold, and Platinum, $2, $7, $12. And no matter what tier you subscribe, you will get early access to future Battlefield 1 episodes that are ad-free. You won't be hearing this bit of housekeeping on Patreon, which you can connect to Spotify, by the way. So just $2, and you get early access and ad-free episodes of Battlefield 1 podcast. I heard some comments from you that you wish that the housekeeping bit, which is this bit you're listening right now, would not be included in the Patreon version of the episode, because if you already subscribe to Patreon, why do you want me to, tell you to subscribe to Patreon, right? It doesn't really make sense, right? So the housekeeping bit is going to be removed from the Patreon episode, and we agreed it's for the beta. So you're not gonna hear that in the Patreon version. That's why I love Patreon personally, because we can always improve, and I love improving. And you guys send us comments about that, so we agreed and we did it. And if you really, really love the show and you want to hear from us, more than Battlefield, at $7, you can unlock the LGG Extra podcast, which is basically live gaming gathering podcast, but it's like became a Patreon exclusive podcast. So where me and Ray are discussing everything about video games and anything that is on our mind regarding this ridiculous gaming industry that we live in. And that is exclusive to Gold patrons, 2 new episodes every month, sometimes 3 if we have a really good month, including all our back catalog of that exclusive episode. So if you just subscribe for 1 month and you don't, for some reason don't want to continue, that's fine. I get that. It's okay. We're not gonna judge you. And you get all the back catalog. So even for £7, I'm talking in British currency, but for $7, you get all the back catalog, and you can literally listen to 25 episodes minimum. So that's a lot of hours to listen, for $7 in my view. So you get all the back catalog, you can listen to our content and everything, and we do appreciate your support. It means a lot. And the goal is to, I already talked about it before, but we don't want to increase the price of our tiers as time goes on. We do want to add more episodes as time goes on, and if we do get a certain number of, Patreon subscribers, we'll make more episodes for certain tiers, because if we get more Patreon subscribers, that means we can skip our real life jobs at least a day or two, so we can continue make more episodes, or whatever the case may be. So that's the idea, that's the plan. So thank you everyone that's been subscribing to us, and it's really lovely and it's really amazing. Thank you for all the support, and that basically motivates us to do more. And thank you for your support. It just makes me really happy. I personally think we make some amazing stuff, entertaining and educational stuff, which also translates to my YouTube channel that I've been running for many, many years. And I'm really, really proud of my work, and I hope you enjoy my work too. But yeah, anyway, patreon.com/TheLankySoldier. Thank you everyone that believe in us, and we will continue to provide. Your support is unbelievable, and thank you for everything. Alright, so housekeeping bit is done. Let's talk about Battlefield. Let's talk some stuff. A lot of things happened in the last couple of weeks, and it caused a lot of discussion in the Battlefield community, and those discussions are not very positive towards DICE, and more particularly to Electronic Arts. I will do my best to remain professional as possible, but please do forgive me if my emotions do take over at one point, because it's not because I enjoy, being negative or love, talking shit or whatever. I really hate that. People listening to my persona and everything, how I've been over the last years, people think I'm that kind of person, but no, I really don't enjoy being negative. It sucks. But because I actually love and care about this franchise that brought a lot of joy into my life, I have standards for this franchise, because I believe it can do better. I know it can do better. It has the potential to be a, wall-beating franchise, and I have a feeling I need to say that to new listeners, because as we're getting new listeners with new episode, they need to hear that I'm not being negative for the sake of being negative. I'm just very passionate about this franchise, and if you're not being, sincere and truthful and, open about the things you love, they're not gonna improve, right? It's just one of those things that you want to be honest about, you don't want to hide it. So welcome to new listeners. That's what kind of person I am. Every time I'm being negative, it's usually for a reason. It's never just for just to shit talk, because I care. I really care about this franchise, and that's all it is. Right, so Battlefield. There's some smaller stuff that happened in the last couple of weeks, but it's not that important, and I will ignore those bits. For example, like the season 7 teasers are being dropped by Battlefield social media, which is fine, but there's no discussion points there. not that important right now. And also Battlefield shared that they're doing some recall visual changes to Battlefield 2042 weapons. They're adding more visual recall, basically. I will not talk about that in this episode because it's something that it's for the next episode, because for Season 7 and everything, it's just a lot of things to discuss, and there's nothing to talk about until we play that update. So I'm not going to talk about that. So like all the small stuff that happened, it's not important right now. So, but let's talk about the most important thing that happened in the last couple of weeks. Important things. So here's what happened. Marcus Lehto, the co-founder of Halo franchise, basically. He made Halo. He is one of the co-creators of Halo franchise. He made one of the biggest franchises in the world, and he was one of the co-creators, and he joined EA, and he co-founded a new studio with Chris Matthews. So him and Chris Matthews founded a new studio based in Boston named Ridgeline Studios, and that is meant to make a single-player component for the next Battlefield game that is meant for 2025 release date. He has resigned from his position as the creative director and has left EA entirely. And not only him, including his co-founder, Chris Matthews, that they both co-founded the studio, they both left their positions, and both of them have resigned, and yeah, that's kind of the thing. So barely 2 years at the company, they founded a new studio and they just resigned. Yikes. This was spotted on LinkedIn by a Battlefield content creator, Ghost of Gaming, and that started a whole discussion around the whole, community. It was also spotted by another Battlefield content creator, Daniel NPC, who was kind enough to give me a Black Seal Battle Pass on Call of Duty Warzone. Thanks, Danny. And he spotted that Ridgeline Studios don't have any open positions to apply for. So Marcus Lehto and Chris Matthews, co-founders of the studio, left their positions, left the company entirely, and there's no job openings. You can't apply to work at Ridgeline Studios to work on the next Battlefield game. So 2 red flags ready, right? And as soon as that rumor mill started, it was getting hotter on Twitter and Reddit, all the social media. Coincidentally, and I will talk about this in a moment, information about the next Battlefield game has started to appear. So as soon as Marcus Lehto and I keep forgetting his name, Chris Matthews, left the studio, and there's no job openings at Ridgeline Studios, for some reason, and I will tell you why, for some reason, all the information about the next Battlefield is coming out the next day. Interesting. That information was published by Mr. Henderson on his, forgot his website. Anyway, Mr. Henderson, right? And if you've been listening to the last episode of Battlefield 1 podcast, you know what kind of feelings I have towards him. They're not very positive. I don't like Mr. Henderson, but I have to mention that in the last couple of years, he did grow up, gained some street cred, in the gaming industry. He became more mature and gained some goodwill by the gaming communities, which I can respect. I'm not a big fan of Mr. Henderson, but when it comes to information and making sure that it's correct, he usually gets it right. Usually. So he was the one that posted a lot of, stuff about the next Battlefield game the next day after all this rumors, start about Marcus Lehto and Chris Matthews leaving Ridgeline Studios. Of course, you take everything with a big grain of salt because there's still a lot of time till the release of this game, and things will change, and it's a leak, information can change, or could be wrong, absolutely false, but for the podcasting's sake, let's entertain the idea that some of it is true, And a day later, you might think, all the news are done. There's the co-founders of Ridgeline Studios left the studio, there's no job openings, and there's new information about the next Battlefield. Do you think it's done? That's all the news? Oh, no, there's more. Electronic Arts announces that Ridgeline Studios, the studio that Marcus Lehto was responsible for, is being shut down by Electronic Arts. barely 2 years after the studio was opened and was announced that they are making a single player, for Battlefield. So on top of that, a lot of people lost their jobs around other EA studios as certain projects got shut down. Like they're not making any Star Wars games or whatever, licensing games and so on. So for example, there was a game that got shut down, was Respawn's Star Wars first-person bounty hunter type of game. It's like some sort of Mandalorian first-person shooter or whatever. I don't know. That project got cancelled, and basically with all the layoffs from Ridgeline Studios and all the cancelled projects from all various EA studios, that makes about 5% of their workforce just literally lost their jobs. So more layoffs at the gaming industry was a surprise. Holy mother of God, what the hell we witnessed in the last couple of weeks. And I've been covering Battlefield news since Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, so more than a decade at this point. And all the last couple of weeks is definitely one of the most weirdest, rage-inducing news I ever heard from when it comes to Battlefield. And I don't even know where to start. But anyway, let's try to cover some of the stuff. It's way too much for one episode, so this is what we're gonna do today and later this month. So for this episode, Marcus Lehto and Chris Matthews leaving the studio and Ridgeline Studios. This is what we're gonna talk about on this particular episode. On this episode, regarding information about the next Battlefield game, like the idea of the next Battlefield game having a battle royale, we're gonna leave it for the next episode where I'm gonna have Ray on it, and because there's so much to cover. But you won't have to wait until next month. We're gonna make 2 episodes this month. So next month, we're gonna focus on Season 7 for Battlefield 2042. And for this month, we're gonna make 2 episodes. So this episode that you're listening right now is gonna be about Ridgeline Studios closing down and creative director Marcus Lehto leaving the company. And for the next episode, we're gonna talk about the news, information about the next Battlefield game. So, all the information that came out and so on. Again, could be the wrong information, but for podcasting's sake, let's entertain the idea that all the information that was mentioned about the next game is correct. Well, in some shape or form. And if you do want to hear the episode early, consider to subscribe to Patreon. Patreon.com/TheLankySoldier. Just have to put it there. And I will mention some information about the next Battlefield in this episode, because I want to go through certain things chronologically, So alright, so let's go back to the start. Marcus Lehto leaving EA, including his co-founder for the studio, Ridgeline Studios, Chris Matthews. It was purely his decision. He completely retired from gaming. He didn't even get a job at a different studio, whatever. Whatever was happening in the last 2 years of him trying to make single player for the next Battlefield game completely killed him mentally. That he decided, you know what, I don't want to do anything with video games anymore. I just want to retire or take a break. And he just, decided to take a break. He resigned from his position, from a really important big position, and it was his decision. He was not forced out. It was his decision. And I'm guessing his co-founder Chris Matthews also decide, I agree with you, I will resign with you, whatever the case may be, God knows. But both of them have resigned, and it's not looking great, And let me address some stuff, before I continue. Game development is really hard. A lot of politics, a lot of people involved, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of information has been, being passed around. While trying to create some sort of some sort of video game, a AAA video game, while try to keep everyone on the same page and make sure that particular video game is, good. Game development is a bitch. We understand that. I don't think anyone can argue with that video games are not a bitch to make. And it's important to have people at these positions, like Marcus Lehto, to guide the studio towards that end goal, to make sure that the game is in good, pristine condition. It doesn't matter what kind of game you're making, but it's these people that are responsible to making sure that these development teams cross the finish line and make a video game. And hopefully that video game is good, and it's basically their job to guide everyone to the right direction. And of course, him leaving, some people might be asking, well, wait, maybe he was really hard to work with, maybe he was very stubborn about certain things and so on, but we don't know. We can't tell because we don't have his side of the story in a sense, and because this is a gaming industry and a lot of politics and a lot of shareholders involved and public relations, all that kind of stuff, you're not gonna get the full information from this kind of stories all the time, because also some of it could be fake, could be what's the word, skewed, biased, so we don't know. But I don't think Marcus Lehto was a horrible person to work with, because from what I've seen him do in the last 2 years while being the creative director at Ridgeline Studios, he was very active with the community. He was asking the Battlefield community what they want to see in the next Battlefield game. What defines Battlefield to them. Like he was asking everyone. Like he was gathering all the feedback. Like, is Battlefield is this, in that, and so on. What kind of vehicle, not kind of vehicle, what kind of gameplay you want to see, and all that kind of stuff. He was very active in the community, and people really appreciate that, because someone from a really top position at EA, literally came down to the gamers level and just like, what you want to see in the next Battlefield game? No one really did that. Only a few people that managed to do that. For example, David Sirlin, that used to work. He's back at DICE, funny enough. But David Sirlin, for example, he was responsible for Battlefield for CTE. More than 10 years ago, he was responsible for community test environment. And because of him, Battlefield 4 was guided into the direction where people really enjoy the game. Now, granted, it didn't age well these days, but back then, it changed the game forever, in a good way. So when people in important positions treat, their player base with respect and ask them what they want, doesn't mean they have to react, to that feedback, but just the idea that they want to listen is such a game-changing thing, with these AAA, games. So when you have Marcus Lehto literally just asking everyone, what do you like to see? Tell me about your experiences. Whatever the case may be, please do let me know, because I want to hear all of it. And he was so active about it. And because it's his job as a creative director to make sure that your next game has some sort of important narrative. He is world building, and because he was doing all this research from the Battlefield community and the whole Battlefield player base, it was so important, and people reacted really nicely to it. Like they was like, oh, suddenly no one's being a douche. Surprise, a lot of people were really accepting of that, and they were giving their fair feedback. Again, doesn't mean they had to react to that feedback, but just because he listened, that made such a huge difference how people, react to the game. And that's why I don't think he was a really horrible person to work with, because I think he was really open-minded. And besides, he's a co-creator for Halo. It doesn't matter what franchise you made. If you're a co-creator of a big franchise, there is a big franchise these days, I don't think you're a horrible person to work with, because you can actually make compromises. It's not easy to make big franchises, let's be honest. Like, you need to make compromises in this kind of, job environments, because it's a lot of money is involved and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think he's a hard person to work with. So I understand some people might get the idea, but from what I've seen, he's a very open-minded, hard-working, executive person. Well, he got in that position because he's good, but so I don't think when people might say that, I don't think that's the case. But as soon as he announced that he's leaving the company, he is supposed to be the creative director, the narrative director, basically the Kevin Feige of Battlefield, right? And now we'll talk about it a little bit later. But so he leaves. You would imagine there will be some sort of plan B at the studio, right? You look at the company and everything. And what I find it really interesting, as soon as it was announced that he's leaving the company on his own terms, you would imagine EA will have some sort of plan B to replace him, or whatever the case may be. No, EA shuts them down. EA shuts down Ridgeline Studios entirely. So after all the rumors started about no job openings at Ridgeline Studios, and Marcus Lehto and Chris Matthews, both co-founders of the studio, are leaving on their own terms. They just resigned entirely. And then a couple of days later, EA finally announces that they're shutting down the studio. Now, granted, the reason why we knew that Marcus Lehto and Chris Matthews are leaving the studio is because they finally can talk about it. They can finally say, yeah, I left the studio, and that's when the announcement for the closure of the studio was planned. So don't it's not important. Don't take it too deeply. But I just find the fact that they shut down a studio that was founded 2 years ago. They haven't released anything. They showed nothing. They got founded 2 years ago, literally with the purpose of making a Battlefield single player. A Battlefield single player. They showed nothing, posted nothing. They literally were in the early stages of creative narrative, creating that early narrative experience for the whole franchise. Without showing anything to the public, EA shuts them down. Under what circumstances that is okay? Any normal human being working at EA in those positions, making these decisions to open a studio, fund the studio, get people to work in the studio, invest millions to open a studio in Boston. Any person, any normal human being, you, me, anyone working at EA, making these decisions, we would lose our jobs and we will be blacklisted from the industry forever for literally draining millions down the toilet with nothing to show. This is the capitalistic game industry that literally brainwashes everyone about everything, as long as the brainwashing protects the CEOs and the executives at these companies. Any normal human being making these decisions drain bloody millions down the drain with nothing to show. And that brainwashing was not only goes towards the player base, it also goes towards the developers. I heard so many stories of developers being normal human beings, being gamers basically, saying some innocent things about the game or explaining something to the gamers that they want answers. Naturally, because the gaming industry is not very open about sharing how things work or whatever for some reason. I don't know why it's supposed to be a secret, because whatever, it's a different topic for another day. But those developers got in trouble, at work from their management because someone at EA at the top thinks that showcasing your flaws or mistakes or explaining something is a weakness. Fuck you. They will never admit that they fucked up. Whoever made this, Andrew Wilson, or whatever, they will never admit that they fucked up. They will never take responsibility for their decisions, for their mistakes. It's the market's fault. It's the game was demanding too much or something. Whatever the excuse they have, it's never their fucking fault. They will get bonuses because they save money. Fuck the normal people that lost their jobs because they're just fucking resource for them. Fuck you. It's like you open a studio and you literally drain millions. For what? Nothing to show. Literally nothing. There's no way it was so bad at Ridgeline Studios that everything was so freaking bad that it was cheaper to close down the studio than try to salvage something. There's no way it was that bad. But going back on topic, Ridgeline Studios is shut down because both co-founders have left the studio, which probably means they encourage other employees, that work for them, to do the same, because probably EA, and at that point probably EA realized there's no point keeping the studio up because all the talent and purpose is basically gone. So maybe that's it, but it's just a name at this point to them. And that's the thing. Marcus Lehto, he was supposed to be the Kevin Feige of Battlefield. He was supposed to bring consistency between projects. He was brought in to the company and to this franchise to be the Kevin Feige. Like, for anyone that doesn't know, Kevin Feige works at Marvel Studios, and because of Kevin Feige, we have MCU. We have the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We have your Iron Mans and we have your Endgames. All this universe is built because Kevin Feige was the person responsible, guiding the studios, guiding the directors, guiding the company towards that endgame. Making sure that all projects align together, all the story beats align together, that this is a connected universe. That's what Kevin Feige does at Marvel. That's what he does with these franchises. He makes sure that all this is connected under one umbrella and everything is, consistent with each other. That's what Marcus Lehto was supposed to do with Battlefield. And me and Ray been complaining about Battlefield not having consistency about their, franchise. We have a different game every couple of years. DICE reinvents the wheel every freaking time. We don't have any consistency. There's maybe consistency between Battlefield 3 and 4. Bad Company 1 and Bad Company 2, but overall, there's no really consistency between all the games. And Marcus Lehto was there to basically create that consistency. For example, Call of Duty Warzone, they have a lot of consistency. Whether they nail it or not, that's not the point. The point is, they have some sort of consistency and you know what to expect. And because there's, a lot, everything's connected, well, you can kind of be invested more. And there's a reason why people play Warzone. Of course, they don't play for the narrative experience, whatever. I get that. It's a Battle Royale game. But there's something to cling on, in the long run. And that's what Marcus Lehto was brought on to do. He was supposed to bring, create this narrative, create this world of Battlefield, to create that all the projects, the next Battlefield game and in the future are all somewhat connected in some shape or form. So no one's gonna, all the games don't be left out. Like right now, Battlefield doesn't have any narrative whatsoever. It's just like he say, hearsay, whatever the case may be. Battlefield doesn't have that. So Marcus Lehto was responsible for that, and he left the studio barely 2 years trying to do something with it, trying to do something with this franchise, create a roadmap, for this franchise. And I really wonder what kind of say Vince Zampella had in this. I really wonder, as he's responsible for EA Entertainment, which is basically responsible for their first party games like Apex, or that are not sports related, Vince Zampella is responsible for the Battlefield franchise right now, and maybe Mr. Zampella and Mr. Lehto clashed heads in some cases to which direction Battlefield should go. Entirely possible, of course. Maybe they have different ideas what Battlefield should go. Maybe Mr. Lehto was more focused on what community wants, and Mr. Zampella was more focused, on the franchise itself. Like what does the franchise need, to go forward. Like, so that's also possible that two big heads collided with each other and their ideas didn't match. Plausible, of course. But I really don't think that was the case, because they both look really open-minded. Oh my god, that is a really loud plane flying above my head. Sorry about that. But yeah, I don't think Mr. Zampella and Mr. Lehto are that type of people that would not find some sort of compromise if that was the case. God knows. But overall, I am blaming Electronic Arts for all of this. For the closure of the studio, of Mr. Lehto leaving the company, and basically people losing their jobs, because the studio goes down. I actually blame Electronic Arts for this, because this is not the first time Electronic Arts brings important, passionate, big-name developers to the company and then literally micromanage them until they quit. Amy Hennig, the writer and director for Uncharted game series, left EA without making anything. And it was clearly stated by her that EA only cares how to push more science-proven microtransactions into their games because money, Fuck the narrative, fuck the game, fuck the premise, fuck art. How can we make sure that people spend more money non-stop on this one singular game? And Amy Hennig, clearly a very passionate and talented writer and director. I mean, the Uncharted games are fantastic, She's a talented person, got brought by EA to make a game for them, and all they did was micromanage her. They did not let her to do her own thing. You would imagine like you make a narrative, you make a game, or you make some sort of a vertical slice of the game, and then after that you'll try to figure out how we can sell something, in the game. But no, EA always looks microtransactions first, how we can monetize this. Then after that we'll decide how the game looks. Her own comments. A talented person like Amy Hennig literally said that. Another one is Jane Raymond, that joined EA from Ubisoft after producing basically all Assassin's Creed games. She founded EA Motive, worked on Star Wars Battlefront 2 briefly, but she did not stay long at the company. I don't know how long she stayed, but she didn't make anything mostly either, And clearly she's a talented producer too, and she actually, opened her own studio just about 2 years ago. No, sorry, a bit earlier than that. And Sony Entertainment bought them out 2 years ago. She literally said she worked at EA for a little bit, tried to make something, dipped because she realized there's no point, and she opened her own studio. And she worked with Amy Hennig too on creating a brand new Star Wars experience for EA, which clearly did not happen, as we can see now. Of course, it's a Star Wars brand, and Disney is definitely very hard company to work with when it comes to licensing with their own IPs and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of get that, but still, you don't want to lose good talent. And Amy Hennig and Jay Raymond are clearly talented people that deserve to make good games, that they deserve their fair shot of making something. But anyway, this is not the first time EA brings people that are clearly amazing at what they do, but they still micromanage them to oblivion and they leave. Marcus Lehto is the recent casualty of that. A man clearly with a lot of passion, a lot of creativity, a lot of common sense, try to do interact with the Battlefield community, what they want in the next game, gather some feedback, and barely 2 years he left. And when it comes to narrative, it does matter to Battlefield, it does matter to Wallbit, because if you don't have a single player, right, at least try to create a narrative, some sort of idea, because I think with video games, especially with AAA shooters, you need something to push those games forward. Battlefield 2042 is really trying to create a narrative for their game, but none of it makes sense, sadly. NOPAD's narrative is still very dumb. I was hoping they will maybe start retconning it with Season 7 and beyond, maybe, but sadly that's not happening. Again, plane flying above my head, I'm so sorry. But you need that narrative in your video games, especially in AAA shooters, because you want to understand what are you fighting for, what are you playing. It's not enough just to have America and Russia fight, in a multiplayer match. it's not enough. I understand like people want just gameplay first and that's of course I agree. I fully agree with you. But you have to understand these games look visually stunning. So much stuff happening in front of the screen. Photorealism and everything, like all that, like you need some sort. You need to it's arcadey shooter. It's an arcadey, very casual, unrealistic shooter. But you still want to understand why these two factions are fighting. You need some sort of backdrop, like in these games, because otherwise, what's the point having America and Russia or any other faction that matter fight? Why not just have a nice block, a white block, a white map with no textures or just no characters whatsoever? Like, why do we need factions? Why do we need this location? What's the point? Like, why? Why do we need this? We might as well play Stickman with guns, right? If you're creating these visual stunning maps and visual characters, all that kind of stuff, you need something for me to care. For example, with Call of Duty Warzone, it's a battle royale game, but they had a narrative explaining why, players fighting each other. They addressed that, maybe not that greatest way, but they addressed shit happens, factions disagreed or whatever, and they're fighting each other, and whatever the case may be. There's a narrative there, right? But you're still gonna enjoy your battle royale game, but at the back of the head you're thinking, it all makes sense. So they shut down the studio. Some of the developers are being moved to Ripple Effect, because they are local by their standards, local as in like California. And they already working on the next Battlefield game, so the next component of and Ripple Effects apparently, there's some leaks here. Some leaks that I heard from some people. Apparently they make, it was already announced they're making a Battle Royale. Leaked, they're making a Battle Royale. I heard some rumors about Ripple Effect from people I trust, and I will not mention names or anything. I trust these people, privately and everything. I will not mention anything. But I heard some stuff from these people that they heard from someone else. That Ripple Effect is doing pretty great. Their Battle Royale mode is looking great. It plays well, looks great. Not saying this information is correct, but that's what I heard. The Ripple Effect is doing really good progress on their development of making a Battle Royale. And apparently that is being pushed by Byron Beatty. So whoever doesn't know, Byron Beatty, who joined EA back in 2021, he was responsible for Call of Duty Warzone existing. So he was responsible for publishing Call of Duty Mobile, Call of Duty Warzone, and he was one of the important people that made sure that Call of Duty Warzone existed. So this is the guy and his team that created the next phenomena that is Call of Duty Warzone. So he moved to EA in 2021, 3 years ago. So this guy knows what is good, and I can see why Battlefield Battle Royale can be good, because he has a plan, he has a vision, assuming all information is correct that I got from this person. Ripple Effect making one amazing Battle Royale, and it's being spearheaded by a person that made Call of Duty Warzone. So there's a vision, there's a plan, and hearing rumors that it's actually going really well, that's actually a really good, positive sign. Great. In other leagues, DICE is struggling with the multiplayer section of the game, but again, could be wrong. Information could be wrong. We don't know. But that's not the topic. It's not important right now. So people lost their jobs at Ridgeline Studios. Certain people moved to Ripple Effect. The single player part. The single player was being worked on. Apparently it's being handed to Criterion. So for anyone who doesn't know, Criterion usually makes Need for Speed games. And some of the developers did work on Battlefield 5 Battle Royale mode, what was it called, Firestorm, and some of the developers do the vehicle physics and all that kind of stuff for the Battlefield games. They haven't done vehicle physics since Battlefield 5, so they did not work Maybe they improved it for Battlefield 2042, but I know they have not worked on Battlefield 20. They haven't worked on Battlefield 5, and I know they did not work on 2142, but they maybe came in later on. But I don't know. Anyway, I like Criterion for what they are, but I'm calling right now. That single player portion of the game that is being handed to Criterion to finish is gonna be very bare bones. Very simple single player experience, maybe co-op, God knows, but nothing of value, nothing of interesting, of world building will be. It will be just a check mark to justify for you to spending $70 on a game. There's a year something left for them to have something, right? To promote for the next Battlefield game. I'm telling right now, with the new people coming in, they're not gonna continue Marcus Lehto's and his team's work. They're gonna try to make their own thing because there's literally no time. There's no time to to learn something or improve. There's no time. That single player portion of this game will be very bare bones, very simple, not interesting. So people really bitched about Modern Warfare 3 single player that came out a couple of months ago. That was very bare bones, very short, not interesting. Well, I kind of disagree with that, but I understand where they're coming from. I understand the feedback that was coming from this, because certain missions looked really basically copy pasted from DMZ, all that kind of stuff. It's like whatever. But I'm calling right now. The next single player portion for the next Battlefield game is going to be very bare bones, not interesting, garbage, not fun, waste of time. Because they will not continue what work Marcus Lehto and his team have done. That's the reality. So we can already say goodbye to a good single player game. A good single player missions and all that kind of stuff. We can say that goodbye. It's gone. That's it. It's not happening. I'm calling it right now. That's my prediction. And in a year or something, when the game is announced and we're gonna play the single player, please go back to this podcast and tell me how right I was. I would love to hear that. And I will be, and speaking of studios closing down, anyone remember I hit my mic. Anyone remember Industrial Toys? They were supposed to make a Battlefield mobile game and never came to fruition. They had a alpha beta happening in Indonesia or some crap, and the studio was shut down a couple of years ago. Now, of course, back then Battlefield Mobile would struggle for other reasons if it released today, but instead of fixing their mistakes, they rather closed the studio entirely. So I guess Ridgeline Studios is no different. I just find it funny that this is the studio basically killed loads of fucking franchises and killed a lot of studios. And instead of trying to salvage something, to save it in some shape or form, they'd rather close it and just probably do a tax write-off or some crap. I don't fucking know. That's probably it. But anyway, like I said, people in these positions, these CEOs, these executives in these positions, making these decisions, they will not lose their jobs. They will not take responsibility, and anyone else working in their positions will lose their job. We will be, if I was working there and I would make this decision, I would be blacklisted from blacklisted from the industry instantly, and because I drained millions down the drain. Wasted millions. And these people will never admit their mistakes. So what's the future for Battlefield? I'll be honest with you. Even though I will not say I'm angry, but honestly, I am. I am. I'm actually really angry. I am disappointed, but not surprised. I just don't understand how this franchise just keeps disappointing in so many different ways. And it's not like I'm asking anything big or anything unique or anything special. I'm a very simple person. Give me a decent game that works and respects the franchise for what it is. I don't really give a damn if it's a battle royale, I don't give a damn if it's boots on the ground or space wizards or magic. I don't care. I just want a good Battlefield game that respects the franchise. And I want to be invested in its narrative and its story and world building and everything, because that's what makes games fun, you know? And that's what Marcus Lehto was hired for, to figure out what's the franchise plan is, what this franchise basically is, you know? How can they make amazing Battlefield games that complement each other? You know, imagine a series of Battlefield games that they might be different from each other, you know, team-wise, gameplay-wise, blah, blah, but they're somewhat connected narratively, you know? It just, like, you might not enjoy this game, but you might enjoy this game, and you still can follow everything that is going on, you know, in the narrative experience of this franchise. And we don't have that. You know, we don't have that. And I can assure, from what I've seen, Marcus Lehto did his fucking best. He talked to everyone. He went to the public about it. He was doing research and he was figuring out, you know, what's the future for this franchise? What's the roadmap? He was world building, you know. I was really excited because how active he was and how open he was about this. I was really excited to know what he is cooking with his team. I was so freaking excited. And barely 2 years in, the studio is shut down. His team is gone. He's gone. EA just basically says, well, he left, well, we're closing the studio, and the next Battlefield won't have a good single-player game. Won't have a good narrative. And then you look at Battlefield 2042, and it's trying to create a narrative about, you know, what's happening in the world. They finally realized, with the recent teasers for Season 7, they finally realized 3 years later that Battlefield 2042 is a prequel to 2142. No shit. I'm glad you finally realized with your no patch shit. Like, I was hoping maybe they can... I don't know. I'm ranting about this now, but I'm just like, what are you guys doing? And I complained to my friend about the loading quotes that you get while loading into a map. Like, when you load into a game in 2042, you have like quotes from these specialist characters at the bottom of the screen. And one of the quotes made me so angry because, well, it's a quote from a specialist named Paik? Yeah, Paik. A South Korean soldier. And we heard how she talks in the game. We kind of already, you know, hear what kind of person she is, what kind of, you know, she speaks in a South Korean accent, you know, in a specific way and so on. Like, you hear that, right? Like, you hear that because the way the voice actress did her job and everything, you hear what kind of person Paik is in that universe, right? And then you read the quote at the bottom of the loading screen. It's the most sophisticated, the most English, the most classy, posh English written sentence. That made me so angry because she would not say it in that way. She will not say it in that particular way, because like, you see what I mean? The text doesn't combine with the face and the character in this universe. It's almost like, let's say, take Captain America, and suddenly okay, I don't know if I should go there, suddenly he's a right-wing person. It's like, you know what, maybe we should stop immigrants, or whatever the case may be, whatever is happening in politics these days. You know, I don't want to talk about politics, but like something that would not make sense for Captain America to say, right? Something that is so outlandish and it just like doesn't make sense for his character, right? Or the best way I would probably describe it, like if Captain America would sign the what they called Sokovia Accords. I have it like he's just like, yeah, I agree with you, Tony. If when that makes sense for the character. So that's what happens with Paik, right? The sentence in the loading screen don't make sense for the character. That kind of stuff, right? So that's what is pissing me off. And now we have the next Battlefield game, which will probably have the same problems. We'll have no connecting tissue to other Battlefield games, and there will be no good roadmap for the next Battlefield game, whatever the case may be. It's just another game. Just another product, another shit to sell from EA. It's just another game with no passion, no love, or anything. We'll see how it goes, of course. We'll see. Maybe it's good. We don't know. Maybe a miracle will happen and it's gonna be amazing and great. We don't know. I mean, crap. For example, look at Helldivers 2. No single player. I understand that, but I understand what's going on in the game, though. Because, the way they promote it, the way they sold the idea, the way they, advertise the satirical world that they're trying to sell, which makes gameplay more fun. Because I'm just thinking about it all the time as I play, even though I don't really want to think about it, but it's still I think about it because it sells the game to, that's what makes the game fun. You have this narrative that is happening in Helldivers and protect Super Earth, protect democracy and everything. It's ridiculous, but it makes sense in this universe. And when you play the game, you're like, oh, I'm a Helldiver. I'm just a grunt fighting bugs, trying to save democracy. It's ridiculous, but it makes sense. And Battlefield doesn't make sense sometimes with its fucking narrative. And that's the fucking problem I have with Battlefield as a franchise. It's so sad. I'm so sad that Marcus Lehto left EA. And what's funny? The Ridgeline Studios website is still up, weeks later. And to make things worse, Battlefield 2042 posted a video about the recall changes, the visual recall changes they adding to with Season 7. In that video, right at the end, they showed, the poster of the game, right? Like, there's the changes happening, and there's like a tagline, like the Battlefield logo at the end, with the poster and everything. And you see the studio names at the bottom, at the end of the video. Because, who's working on this game? They still have Ridgeline Studios' name in there. Weeks after it was announced that they're shutting down. And no one in marketing or whoever even decided to check on that. It's like, maybe we should remove the name for this. No one checked. No one cared. Or whatever the case may be. It just looks so bad. It's just everything they do right now looks really, really bad. And Battlefield always been liking that, since its inception, that narrative. Every Battlefield game was a contained story bit. And it's fine. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when every game is so different, because DICE wants to reinvent the wheel non-fucking stop, no wonder the franchise has a big identity crisis with each game. If you try to describe what Battlefield is, like I said multiple times, 10 people will come up with 10 different answers what Battlefield is. Rarely you'll get really identical answers, because that Battlefield has been a different type of franchise every freaking time with each game. No one knows what the franchise is about. Some people want milsim stuff, armor, or be more realistic and everything. And then the other people that want to go, as ridiculous as possible because it's an arcade shooter and so on. I get that, but people grew up with different Battlefield game. Every Battlefield game is different, and that's what they think Battlefield's supposed to be. What is this franchise? We don't know. Because all of us have different interpretations what Battlefield is. And clearly EA doesn't know either. To them it's just a product. They finally had the opportunity to take the franchise to the next level and finally fix the identity crisis problem that we have in this franchise. But no, we rather focus on short-term goals, short-term gains, because shareholders close the studio, fuck everyone else. Does the next Battlefield has a chance of being good? Of course. We don't know anything. We can't predict the future. Stuff is always changing, but I'm personally extremely worried, for obvious reasons. We can't have another shit show that was Battlefield 5 in 2042. That's the truth. We can't. Otherwise, I don't want to make predictions again, because I made predictions before, and look, majority of the time my predictions are not that correct. But I'm certain about the single player game, or the single player portion of the game not being good. I'm sure about that. And you think, EA finally cracked the code, but no, they closed the studio. They just closed the studio. So Marcus Lehto is gone. Whole narrative team is gone. Studio responsible for the actual single player, gone. The so-called connected universe is pretty much dead without even seeing the light of day. How can someone even be remotely excited for the next Battlefield game? Seriously, be honest. How? You thought they finally cracked the code. I finally thought to myself, I literally got excited. Wow, this is exactly what we've been saying for the last 5-10 years. Well done, EA. You finally did it. And I've been praising them in the last episodes that Ridgeline Studios will definitely make something good. Because they have a vision, they have a plan, they have good leads that care about this franchise, they want to make it good, they fucking care. But nope, they can't even commit for more than 2 years. They basically wasted millions for absolutely nothing. Oh my god, that plane. They basically wasted millions for nothing to showcase. They literally have nothing to showcase. All they have is a dead Ridgeline Studios website right now, still up. Idiots, morons, absolute donkeys. And like I said, it's never their fault. It's the market's fault. It's the gamer's fault. It's me hosting a Battlefield podcast and telling what a stupid ass decision EA has made. It's my fault. And someone will, of course, will listening to this and think I'm attacking the developers themselves or individuals themselves or whatever. No. I attack the idea of incompetence. I attack the actual hubris of incompetence and stupidity. Listen, I get, I worked in a big corporation too. I understand how it can be an absolute shit show sometimes. I fully get it. But being quiet and pretend that there's no problem that doesn't need fixing, you're not helping anyone. Everyone are just being dragged down while the big CEOs and the big executives are, getting their bonuses because they think they know best. Hence why we have all these layoffs around the industry. Game industry needs a fucking crash and start building a new foundation, because seriously, fuck this noise. I hate this gaming industry so much. I hate the corporate idiots on the top making these decisions. They think they know best, and then people lose their jobs. People say, oh, people overhired for COVID. Well, anyone with a fucking brain cell could tell you that this is not gonna last. But someone, somewhere, these people, it does not only comes to EA, it's not only EA, it comes to other gaming companies out there with publishers. They thought this is gonna be forever. They thought this is gonna last forever. The only way is to the moon. Infinite growth. Absolute morons. And they open a studio to fix their franchise. Fix their fucking franchise because they couldn't fucking make their minds up what Battlefield 2042 supposed to be. It's not like we're asking too much. We're not. I think most of us, Battlefield community is very reasonable. And we'll deal with a lot of shit. We'll deal with a lot of shit. As long as the game is, has passion behind it. Has art behind it. It has passionate people working behind it. We care about this franchise. We want developers enjoy making their games. We want to experience their art. But we can't. They can't even commit 2 years. 2 fucking years. Keeping the studio up. To make some sort of road plan for the next 10 years. For the next Battlefield games. Or whatever the case may be. You have one fucking job. But you can't. Because short-term gains and shareholders and shit. Need to keep my bonuses, you know. I need to buy my yacht. Or whatever. I need to buy my fit Bugatti. Fucking morons. I swear to fucking God. It makes me angry. It's just... This franchise can't grow. Can't grow. Because of these selfish... narrow-minded... decision making. It just makes me fucking angry. So I don't know. Is the next Battlefield game will be good? Don't know. Is it a lot of red flags already? Oh yeah. A lot of red flags. Red flags for fucking miles. And we seen with other games. Important people leaving their games, their studios, because they had enough of executives trying to push shit on them. Do these executives even play their games? Of course they're not. They don't fucking know what Battlefield is. They just know it's as a product. They play for like they play the vertical slice the developers give it to them, and then they say yes or no. That's it. They're not involved in the game development decisions. They just play the vertical slice. They only play, for an hour maybe, just to see what the game is all about, give some ideas, and that's it. They move on. So I'm just gonna say this: well done, Marcus Lehto, for standing your ground. Thank you for fighting for your principles, and I hope you will gain that joy back, on making video games. I hope you will not stay retired forever. I understand that EA probably killed your joy in video game development, or just, all this business entirely. You're not the only one, because this is like other creatives that joined EA and they got burned to the ground. And they moved on. They don't have to deal with that shit. And EA can deal with their fucking sports games non-stop. Don't get me wrong. I love me some FIFA games. I love FIFA. Or EA, FC, whatever. I love those games. But you have other franchises that need attention too. If you don't care about the franchise, sell the franchise to someone else. Seriously, EA, Electronic Arts, I swear to God, please, if you don't care about Battlefield that much, sell it to someone else. Sell Medal of Honor franchise too with that. Battlefield and Medal of Honor, come on, sell it to someone else. Give it to someone else. Please. Please. If you're not committing to this franchise and you just want to push out another shitty product, please sell it to someone else. Make one good decision in your life. In your whole fucking company's existence. And of course, I'm not going to say that EA never did anything good. Of course they did. They did a lot of good things back like any big company. They bring jobs and some good games and everything. Of course they did, of course. But it's just, when you clearly made the right decision and you can't even commit to that decision. It's just like, anyway. Well done, Marcus Lehto, for standing your ground. I hope everything is great and everything, and you'll come back to a different company and different franchise or whatever, and make something that you really enjoy, and it will bring the passion back to you. On that note, I'm just gonna say this: thank you everyone who've been listening to my ramblings. I hope you all had a wonderful time of me listening to my anger. I hope you all gained a different perspective and you will carry this knowledge towards your future goals, whatever those future goals are. Like I said before, follow me on social media, pretty much everywhere, at TheLankySoldier. If you want to give feedback, ask questions, anything that is on your mind, please do click on that Google Forms document that is in the description. No account needed, just send a message. It's that easy. And if you really enjoy the show, check out Patreon. Patreon.com/TheLankySoldier for early access for future Battlefield 1 podcast episodes, exclusive Patreon podcast that me and Ray host, LGG Extra podcast, and so much more. Like behind the scenes, all that kind of stuff. Every support counts. It helps us to make more episodes, and we appreciate every single donation and subscription that we get from you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Stay safe, don't be a douchebag, respect others, and I hope to see you on the battlefield. Stay safe.